Hello, everybody. It's me, Lemoni, and I'm here with my friend and we're back for another week of the New World Report. We just finished up an episode on channel. So, like always, if you're starting with mine, head on over to channel. Go do the weird YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your grandma, your grandpa, everybody you know. Watch that episode, watch this one, and let us know how you feel about it. How are you doing? Still
Uh,
good?
Brother, I am great, man.
Still
Hello,
good.
everybody out there, and let's talk some New World.
Let's talk about it. All right. So we hit some really good PTR stuff on channel, but I want to hit some more relevant, like current issues or
Sure.
current things. So first thing, I know we've been talking about mutators a lot. Hard mode mutators. All right. So what I mean by this is like 6+, where you're starting to get like or 7+, 6+, where you're starting to get new mechanics, or just in general difficulty wise. I've been dipping into these a lot. I've been playing with my boys BDLG and Redbird, some friends Louis, but we've been starting to do more difficult mutators. Now, what I want to talk to you about is this mechanic they add. So we get the 3 different types of affixes. I know how's your mutator journey been going before we get into this?
So
Have
I'm
you been
I'm
doing much
sitting
of
I'm
them?
sitting about M3 right now. So this is
Okay.
unexplored territory for me. So go ahead, and give me
Okay.
because I honestly don't know what it looks like, sort of in the higher
Yeah.
level.
Well, it's not much different. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
So, but I'm sitting at 614, and my current issue with just hard mode mutators is that this mechanic they add isn't really impactful. At least this one, and
It's a
not much
curse,
of the other
right? So
ones.
what is the what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now on ours with fire and everything, it's censored. Okay. And now censored, what it does is there's an ability bar, which I think is really cool at the top. And as everybody's casting abilities, it's filling it up. And once it hits the top, it drops a bunch of zones on the ground that silence you. And then it starts going back down. And once it hits 0, they all explode. Now, here's the thing. One, very, very, very easy to predict when these are
Yeah.
coming, and you can
Yeah.
force them to come because you can see it, which I like, I appreciate and don't appreciate because it just makes it really easy. But you'd think these big zones are going to do some damage. You're wrong. They hit you for like 2K, and they are very, very not impactful. And so I guess
Do
I'm
they disappear like later on in like M10, M9? Like
no. So
can you see the bar in those
no,
higher?
you can see everything is the same. Once you hit hard, it is all the same, and it's just that gear score grind, and that's I mean that's something else we can still talk about. But I guess how do you feel about mechanics in mutators? What do you think they can do to make them more mechanically intensive and less of a gear score grind?
Well, I just think that maybe it's a randomization of everything you've seen up to this point, and maybe there's less handholding. Like you said, that bar.
Mm,
If you can predict that bar, can you just like be not in aggro and just start spamming abilities to fill up the
yes,
bar?
you can.
Oh, so
You
you can
can.
totally
So
just
we
game it.
yep,
Like, I mean, I
yeah.
guess if you're gaming it, then you're slowing your time down a little bit. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that
but
would
it's
be
kinda like we would get to pop, like, right before the first boss of Genesis, like, we see it, it's about to fill up, we do it while he's doing his animations, and we don't even have to worry about it. It'll fill back up, right? And, like, the silence piece is interesting, but I just don't think it's enough to be like, "Alright, this is really, really difficult," and, like, that's
right.
what's making this exciting,
I think if
right?
you couldn't see the bar, then you could be in the middle of a boss fight and not know where it's
Yeah.
at. And if you're taking the time to try and like guess and force it to come out, you're still taking
Mhm.
up time. So I think that just seeing the bar go away would be a huge change and make it
I
way more difficult.
I really think we need to get more randomization in, right? So, like, we've had I don't know if there's other things, but, like, I've only seen fire or void, and then the same, like, affixes every week. I've never heard of anybody having other ones. I guess I'd have to hear in the comment section, but I think
Right.
giving us give you, like, our element each week or whatever, but give us the other 2 random. Like, start giving us a pool of more random to be like, "Alright, you know what? This keeps us on our toes." But I think also it's just they need to add in these mechanics that are more interesting? I don't know. I don't think it's much, and I know we were joking about it when I was streaming it, but it's just like the difference between a 6 to a 10 is literally nothing.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of I'm gonna get bopped unless I get my gear score up to 625. And so like that's something I'm starting to see is like now I've seen it all,
Yeah, that's kind
right?
of yeah. Okay, I see
And
what you're
that's
saying.
something we've been talking about, but I'm not really sure what direction. I'm gonna be curious when people start to comment, but I would want to hear everybody's thoughts on how we really make hard mode mutators actually hard.
Now
And I think that'll be good.
before we move on, something we were talking about sort of offline was have you been getting lag in the mutators?
Yes, that was my other thing of mutators. Right now, I don't want to. Sometimes I don't want, depending on the day. Like today, I
Right.
wouldn't have ran like my plus sevens, plus eights because every I had, I got lag detected, and then we'd sit there, and then one of them, I can pull up stream clips at some point, but we sat there, all of us had to DC, and then we ended up getting killed by the first boss because we all
Unreal.
flew around on the platform, and then we couldn't get back in for 5 minutes, right? So it's like when you're burning a high key and you're trying to push it, like that's a waste. But every single run, there was another one I had. We were running a +7. We all the ring boss in Genesis, all of us lagged right as it was starting. Nobody could, get the guy out of his stamina phase to one shot everybody because we all lagged out of the circle.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that. I just think for mutators and really trying to make a competitive end game, we need to iron out the
Yeah.
server
I
issues.
will. I will. I will say like okay. So regarding lag, I've gotten lag detected error twice in the last day,
Yes.
and I was
Yes.
DC'd on one of them, and then it like took like a 20-second break
Mhm.
on the other. And it seems to happen on El Dorado when like a war fires or an invasion fires. That's happening quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Listen,
It's frustrating. It's like
I was so
I just want to say
I go for it.
it happened again. I was like watching the El Dorado War. Everfall
Yeah.
just flipped tonight, and during the war, I'm seeing people just standing there still. I'm like,
First, don't even get me
we're
started.
five
This
months
is why I'm
after
not doing
release.
wars. This is why
Yes,
I'm not doing wars.
literally,
Every time I
guys
watch a
going
war,
like just standing
I'm
there.
lagging. They're just going,
Yeah,
and I'm like, what am I watching? It's like whenever people are
yeah,
trying to funnel up into a point, cap a point, it is constant like lag fest. And if it ever gets to the point where everybody is inside trying to cap the final point,
yep,
I've heard shot callers just say, "Fight over the leg, stand in the middle." Like it's just like
yeah,
it's a coin toss at that point. Like, are you going to lag in, lag out? Or are they going to get it? And it is. This is a whole. I know we've kind of dipped into something else, but war lag, PvP lag is a whole other issue. I think we could have just made this one of our topics, just lag in
yeah,
general, and maybe that's something we talk about next week. But I think as far as mutators go, we really need to before we see any kind of it, and I kind of want to talk about this too, but like a competitive scene for hard mode mutators would be super exciting, but we can't really see any of that until we
right.
have server issues ironed out.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like we see that on like the New World Twitter, actually, of all things, like show me your mutator score. Then you got all these
Yeah.
guys posting screenshots. You see it on Reddit, you see it on the official forums. But it would be nice to see like timed runs and like your
Yeah.
score average and like that sort of stuff, like on a
I am
leaderboard. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm pivoting this a little bit into a kind of like we'll go like a B
Yeah,
point
yeah,
of
yeah,
hardware mutators. I want a mutator league. Okay, WoW has the MDI, right? They have the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. They do a little, we have this set of affixes. You got to run these ones once we have enough expeditions. But they have pro teams for these kinds of things,
yeah,
and I think that kind of thing for New World would be absolutely fantastic. But we need more mechanically challenging things where it's not just get to 625 and you'll just steamroll it,
yeah.
right? And the lag is a different issue. How do you feel about adding some kind of competitive component like that?
Oh, I'd love to see it, and I'd love to see it with OPR as well.
Yeah.
I think those are two things that are important to both of us, and
Mhm.
I think if this game's gonna have a long life, they need to be forward thinking and have that stuff sort of
Yes.
in the plans.
Yes.
Maybe not
I
now, maybe not this year, maybe sometime
Mhm.
next year.
In the
They
future.
introduce some sort of just introductory
Yeah.
piece to that.
I would not be shocked if maybe, they start getting some like stream like, whatever, like just a random groups of streamers. They set them up in random teams of 5 and they're like, "All right, let's see who can get the highest
How
scores."
incredible would that be?
I think that would
We're
be
both
the dream.
streamers, so
That'd be right?
I
That'd
know
be
two streamers that could do it.
Um, I would love to do some stuff like that, but the issue is, right, you have to have everybody same gear score. You've got to maybe they do some kind of weird thing where it's like, all right, you can only sit at 600 gear score. Let's see how high you can get,
Yep,
right? Stuff like that. I think that would be really really cool for the game, adding some competitive elements and some kind of ranked leagues and doing stuff like that.
agree.
Anyway, let's move into my next topic, and I know this is one that you might not have a lot to say about,
I
but
don't, but
healing
let's hear it.
healing in New World. Okay, I have been a healer again, I'm going to bring up my background. I've never healed in a game until New World. Now I'm going to end up playing Lost Ark as a support kind of class,
Hmm?
but healing in New World is an interesting world where personally, I think the devs just hate healers. But um, I don't know if you saw in general. There's something on the PTR about, and this was my other gripe about the PTR. They reworked our 300 focus bubble. Okay,
Okay.
On live right now, our 300 focus bubble is when you hit 0 mana, you get 200% mana regen. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds pretty neat.
Yeah.
Except 200% mana regen is kind of garbage, in all honesty. It doesn't really do much. But the other piece of it is whenever you shoot any kind of ability, you don't regen mana. So, like I'm saying, like a left click, because even though it takes no mana for the life staff, baseline, the life staff would take mana, but we take a perk to reduce it so that you don't use any mana when you left click. And then it does like a check. So it's thinking, okay, I'm spending mana. It equates to 0, but I can't regen while mana is being spent. And then that ends up in me chugging 40 mana potions per run. In general, what they've done in the PTR now is, this gets me back. Okay, I'm kind of going all over the place, but 300 focus bubble, it's when you hit 0 mana. I have never had it pop before because I have never perfectly gotten to 0 mana because it is almost impossible with the way that the costs of mana
Oh,
go.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So it is literally wasted on live right now. My thing that they're doing, at least it's a step in the right direction. I think this is the first time we've ever seen a solid step in the right direction for healers, and I'm curious to see what other people think is when you go below 15 mana, we now get that 200% regen. But my other issue is now that 200% regen isn't really going to do much when I'm trying to pop off left clicks, but maybe I'm supposed to just stop attacking. It depends on how they're trying to design it. But I think our 300 focus perk in general is just not good. It's just not good. And I would love, like strength, you get grit. At dex, you get auto crit. At focus, we get nothing right now. And I think as far as healers go, we're in a step in the right direction. But in the past, okay, we have been nerfed. We have had things changed. I've lost my toe dip on
Right.
beacon. I have lost my blissful touch AoE. I can't remove debuffs on myself unless I have purify on my earring.
Yep.
And I am a healer who can take debuffs on other people, but then don't even get me started about how would I take a debuff off of somebody when it's only on this weird hitbox on a heavy attack and half the time it doesn't hit people. But every single one of my abilities has been nerfed, changed. Just there's been the whole right side of the life staff tree it's good, but the ultimate and every other perk in there is almost garbage. There's one cookie cutter build you generally follow on the left side, and that's like, okay, insert orb or beacon. I think in terms of player choice and situational things and just general healing gameplay, there needs to be a lot of work done in the healer class.
Okay,
And
so
I think
yeah, go.
I unpacked a lot, but hit me with what you're thinking.
Well, all I can say is every healer that I talk to in my company basically says I just left click basically nonstop, then I splash the AoE, and they're like basically complaining that like, well, it's a vital class, like you need it, you need a lot of them in your company, but the gameplay and I'm just actually just doing it, it's not very rewarding or fun.
Not fair. And the thing that would be rewarding and fun is like, okay, when I have to burst, like, don't get me wrong, it is pretty crazy when, and I've honestly like I started running mutators today, like only 3s and 4s, but I'm doing it with people who are all below recommended gear score by like 10 points. So it's like a personal challenge of trying to keep people alive. But I think the thing that would be exciting is like burst healing, right? Hitting a big chunky like Light's Embrace. But mouse wheel scroll healing is horrible. It is
Right.
atrocious to try and use.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watching right now, I want you to, and any of you who play DPS, I want you to try healing a mutator, healing an expedition in general, just kind of feeling what it's like. And before you start saying, you're not healing me, go give it a shot, and you'll kind of see why. But
Where
I
are my
think
heals at, Lemoni?
yes, I kind of want to pivot this into how do you feel about, like I know you've switched into tank,
Yep.
but do you feel like, tanks have enough love? Do you feel like they're in a good spot? Do you think, because I just feel like the healer role is one that needs so much work, but does not get really looked at very much.
I think tank. My issues with tank right now are sort of like OPR and Scream, where I get screamed and I just get melted because I can't heal. They can't do anything. Yes. That's sort of lame for tanks. And it may be more of a PvE class right now. I sort of think I think when I talked to you, you mentioned that the leadership for the offensive tree was better for the 10% flat, damage bump. Yeah. I think that's sort of interesting. So I may be swapping over to that. Yeah. I do use the defensive branch right now, and I think that it's kind of stupid because like I feel like the radius like should be a lot bigger for that. You got to be like pretty tight together.
That's why we dropped it.
Yeah.
right? That's why we stopped taking it. It's like, all right, you're not stacked on your tank typically and doesn't reach far enough to hit other people. So what is the point? Why
I'd
not
like
just give everybody a 10% damage buff?
I'd like to see like just defensive bump like to everybody within your radius. And there's cool
Yeah, that'd be
things like
interesting.
if you're like on gear score runs, like whatever, just like doing OPR stuff. Like I think that you can play around with that a little bit more, and there's a little bit more of a
Yeah.
strategy.
I don't see why they couldn't make it a buff. I have 2 buffs constantly as a healer that apply party wide wherever they are, right? It's the
Hmm.
same thing as leadership. Why not just when they're blocking, give everybody a defensive buff?
Yeah, so
Stuff like that.
I'm running a hammer as my second item or my second weapon.
Yeah.
I may be switching to hatchet just for funsies. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I do
That's
like
it.
sword and board. I think sword and board's fun, but man, yeah, it's not the most engaging
I
thing. I think Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet was more fun to play
Yeah.
personally.
I think in terms of, and I know we've pivoted this into just different builds and different comps and how to play, but I think healing is one of the most fundamental, crucial roles in the game, right? There's so many places where you don't even need a tank right now. Like I can run like 1 through 3 mutators with no tank, easy. But I think it's a very, very, very vital role that does not feel rewarding at all
Mm.
and is very clunky. It is very
Well,
clunky. And
doesn't some of the like the abilities have like just insane cooldowns? Isn't there like one that has like a 40-second cooldown or something like
There's
that?
yeah, there's a couple that are like that. Yeah, there's like Beacon is like 30 seconds. I think that's your longest one. But like with how much cooldown reduction I get when if you ever watch one of my build guides, if you're out there trying to heal, getting refreshing move on a life staff is life changing, and
Hmm.
you have constant uptime on things. But I just think the play style right now is literally just splash down your AOE. You keep like Light's Embrace in your back pocket just in case, and have fun scroll healing on people when it's pretty panicky. I had
They
a I
got
had
to
a
make that
run
more engaging. They
I
do.
had a run today that was kind of buggy, and everybody's health bars were completely full no matter what. And so it was kind of like a hardcore mechanic, but that was exciting. But I think as far as healers go, I just want some love, and I think and I know a lot of classes could use a little bit more love and some work, but I think healers especially they're in a rough spot. They're in a rough spot.
Yeah. Well,
All right,
go play something else with Lost Ark for a little
yeah,
bit and take a
yeah,
break from healing.
that's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan.
All
So
right, loot problems. What do you got for loot
loot
problem?
problems. Okay, I want to know how many people out there have been running expedition after expedition, running all kinds of content, and you get like orange drops, right? You get orange, you get purple drops. How many of those have you actually ever used?
Not a
Because
lot.
me, I can confidently say I've used one, and that's Woda. I have used one item ever that is a legendary from, and it's going to depend on your class. Like obviously, tanks and like melee DPS, they like smooth bone ring, and they have Doom's Chance. Or if you're a Dex person, you have featherweight. Or there's like weapons, right? It's weapons and accessories. But how many times you actually get rolls that work for you?
Right.
And I think right now in New World, there's a issue of craft all of your gear so that you can be better in all the content, but then there's not really that much of a reward other than upgrading your crafted gear from doing said content. And I think that's something where other games shine is like, I know in WoW, you're shooting for these pieces, you know the name of it. You're like, I need X piece
Right.
because it's fantastic. In New World, it is I need pristine diamond amulet so that I can get, regenerating, refreshing evasion, right? Or I
Yeah.
need insert orichalcum pants from somebody to craft so I can roll 10 rolls and sit there and lose all my money like I'm at a slot machine. And I think it's just the loot in New World, as far as getting it, needs, and there is something to say about, you're a crafter, it's cool to make that gear, but
See,
I
I side with the crafters a little bit, man. I think they have to have a place here. I think they have
I
to have
think
a
they have to have
role.
a I think they have to have a role. I
There's
100%
got to be a
agree.
balance. There's got to be a balance,
But
though.
I
I mean,
think
I think maybe you make one or two of the pieces for the full set of
yes.
whatever you're doing, only attainable through loot, and maybe the crafting is
I think
a bit
it's
easier.
I think personally what they need to do is keep it the same, but I think the drops that you get need to be like I think we need a different
Meaningful.
pool of perks. Like for instance, if I get something that drops with focus, don't give me a bow perk on there.
Yeah.
Or something, but then you can argue like it is an MMORPG, you got to grind for loot, but I can't tell you how many times I've gotten like life staff with Dex and Int on it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's like I've never gotten an actual meaningful piece. But then it becomes okay. Then these pieces aren't as rare. I just think there needs to be something done where, let's say I'm not a crafter or I
Yeah.
don't know anybody who can craft, that I can grind expeditions and stuff and actually get loot that is meaningful
I will.
instead of
Yeah.
the random constant drops that do nothing for
I
me.
will say, like, in the leveling process, 0 to 60, I did use a lot of dropped items. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all you
yeah,
use is dropped items for the most part.
yeah,
If you're spending money 0 to 60, you're doing it wrong. Like,
yeah. I got a ton of, and it was fun, right? It's like, hey,
yeah,
I got this cool piece. Like, let me put it on.
yeah,
But in Endgame, it has been I'm using the same pieces or buying some random orange pieces that have been crafted by somebody else while they're trying to roll certain pieces that they want.
right.
And then it just becomes a never-ending crafting cycle. And I just think loot problems, the general synopsis is if I'm running a ton of PvE or I'm running a ton of PvP, give me some more rewarding loot that is actually going to be worth my time instead of me. I know I'm just in there for Umbral Shards. That's it. I know
That's
that, like, I'm gonna
yeah.
get a bunch of garbage, and most of it's bind on pickup, and then it rolls bad anyway. So it's like I can't even try to sell it. But I don't know. That's any final thoughts on loot problems?
I agree. There needs to be some sort of balance, and
Yeah.
I think it's frustrating to do all these things and only be worrying about umbral shards. I mean,
Yep.
that's not working as intended in my mind. So
Yep. All right. Well, I mean, you got it here first. We need some mutator changes. We need some healing love,
yes, we
and
do.
we need to fix some of the loot stuff. But as always, Urs, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Until next week, you got any shout outs this week?
Uh, we told Dan to fix his internet, so
Yeah, Dan, listen, Dan's been trying to download Lost Ark. We got him to go to Starbucks with a laptop to get it downloaded in time. All right. That's what we need some fixes on. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for being you. Go ahead over to Urza's channel if you started with my video, get the whole report, and I hope all of you are wonderful and have a great rest of your day.
thanks, guys.
Peace.